watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday morning. A live look from New York City, and you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. Something that you have seen, though, our top story, another standstill. President Trump blasting Democrats for rejecting a deal to pay for the wall with a government shutdown 3 days away. This as Republicans push for a new plan to keep Washington open. Todd Pyro joins us live to break it all down for us. So, Todd, maybe people aren't surprised by this, but we got 3 days to go.
Maybe not surprised, but this is like procrastination in college, right?
Yeah.
Wait until the last minute. Well, it looks like the White House is softening its stance on the shutdown. That didn't stop the president from calling out Democrats on Twitter. The Democrats, this is a quote from the president, tweeting, Democrats are saying loud and clear that they do not want to build a concrete wall, but we are not building a concrete wall. We are building artistically designed steel slats so that you can easily see through it. It will be beautiful and at the same time give our country the security that our citizens deserve. It will go up fast and save us billions of dollars a month once completed. End tweet. As for the money, the White House says it could get creative without saying how.
And we would like to see Congress pass an appropriations bill that fully funds our government. In the meantime, we're also looking at other avenues that would allow us to provide and do our constitutional authority.
You'll recall the president demanded $5 billion, Democrats countering with $1.3 billion. Reports say Mitch McConnell proposed $1.6 billion and a $1 billion slush fund for immigration. But Chuck Schumer says that's a no-go.
And I called Leader McConnell and told him we would not accept their $1 billion slush fund and that our offers to fund the government remain. Let me be clear. The Republican offer would not pass either chamber.
Now, the Senate could pass an interim spending bill known as a continuing resolution as early as today to fund the government through February 8th. The House could then follow suit tomorrow, leaving a day to spare. But the question then becomes, Heather, would President Trump sign it?
Yeah, and then there's also this pledge coming at the same time to give, over $10 billion to Central America and southern Mexico to aid them. So we're going to talk much more about this coming up.
And it certainly raises that question that President Trump has always said, America first.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you so much, Todd. Well, Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt, he has something to say about this. He says that money isn't the biggest hurdle in stopping a shutdown. He says the real issue is the anti-border platform that is growing in popularity among far-left Democrats.
Funding the wall has never been the real big problem here. And the real problem is the will to actually do the hard work of putting up a wall and taking those votes. The only thing we have found out in the last 2 weeks is that Democrats that are coming into control, the House and the Senate in Congress, have vowed to shut the government down instead of doing something about fixing the border. And whether you call it a wall or a fence, it is a barrier that prevents people from illegally crossing into the United States. Even Democrats who supported, say, the 1996 or the 2006 Fence Act, which did basically the same thing, have now been pulled by the left wing of their party over into this no borders, anti-ICE, sanctuary city crowd that opposes doing anything about the border.
Now, if the interim spending bill is passed, Democrats will control the House by the next funding deadline, meaning that they will have to split their time between another potential border showdown and their long list of planned investigations they've been talking about. Well, the Senate overwhelmingly passes a bipartisan prison reform bill overnight. This is a live look at Capitol Hill, where the legislation now moves to the House. A vote is expected this week. The president tweeting in part, "This will keep our communities safer and provide hope and a second chance to those who earn it. In addition to everything else, billions of dollars will be saved. I look forward to signing this into law." And the bill reduces sentences for some drug offenders, and it boosts rehabilitation efforts. A Capitol Hill grilling. We are now getting a look at those transcripts from James Comey's second closed-door meeting with lawmakers. Griff Jenkins joins us live from Washington with more on how it all went down. Good morning, Griff. How you doing?
Good morning, Heather. You know, we all saw the FBI director's outburst after the hearing. Well, we are learning more about what happened behind closed doors. Of note, let's look at some of these transcripts. Now, about the infamous dirty dossier that was the basis for surveillance on the Trump campaign, Comey says, quote, I remember being told that Steele's work had been funded first by Republicans opposed to Trump, then by Democrats to oppose to Trump. Meadows, so now what you're saying is that in part of your investigation, you really didn't care who was funding Christopher Steele's work. Is that what you're saying? It didn't matter to you? Comey continued a bit later. Who cares? It was Republicans. Comey continued, opposed to Trump. Well, Comey was also asked about President Obama's knowledge of Hillary Clinton's emails in an exchange with Trey Gowdy. Gowdy says, President Obama said of her email arrangement, I don't think it posed a national security problem. How would he have known that at the time, Mr. Comey? I can't answer that question. Mr. Gowdy, he said this is not a situation in which America's national security was endangered. How would he have known that at the time? Comey, same answer. I can't answer that. At the end of the day, Democrats continue to call this a whole waste of time. But Republicans like Congressman John Ratcliffe says this proves Comey wasn't a fair arbiter of justice.
You know, I've lost all objectivity with regard to former Director Comey, in part because I was one of the folks that was defending him 2 years ago when all of this stuff started to happen. I don't mind if Jim Comey is a partisan, but don't pretend to be a fair and impartial umpire.
And we're not done yet, Heather. Next up, it is President Obama's former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who will testify behind closed doors, probably talking about those emails and that infamous tarmac meeting she had with President Bill Clinton.
Yeah, we'll
Heather?
see if we get any answers from her, if there'll be much of the same of I don't know, I don't remember, I can't say. We'll see. Thank you so much, Griff. Have a great day. Well, a federal judge, in the meantime, did you see this happening yesterday? Postponing Michael Flynn's sentencing with a blistering criticism. Judge Emmett Sullivan telling the former national security advisor, quote, arguably you sold your country out, adding, I cannot hide my disgust or my disdain for the crimes you committed. Now, Judge Sullivan would not guarantee no jail time, as suggested by special counsel Robert Mueller, but he did apologize for his remarks. Flynn's sentencing has been rescheduled for March. Questions were recently raised about how the FBI handled the interview with Flynn, who pleaded guilty to lying to the agency. Fired FBI Director James Comey defended the interview in his testimony on Capitol Hill on Monday. Well, ethics complaints against Justice Brett Kavanaugh are thrown out. An appeals panel dismissing the claims, most of which focused on Kavanaugh's tone as he defended himself against sexual misconduct accusations during his confirmation process earlier this year. Well, the judges ruled specific code of conduct laws cannot be applied to Supreme Court justices. How about interest rates? They could climb again today. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is expected to increase rates by 1/4 point. Now, this would be the 4th increase this year. And we know what happens when this happens. This comes despite President Trump urging the central bank to hold steady and avoid rate hikes. The president believes the increases are undercutting his efforts to boost the economy. The stock market futures are trending towards positive gains today as investors await the announcement. Well, President Trump's sticking to another promise, advancing our nation's interest in space. The White House officially ordering the Defense Department to create a new U.S. Space Command. The initiative aims to consolidate the military's space operations and to defend American assets.
A new era of American leadership in space has begun. It will develop the space doctrine, tactics, techniques, and procedures that will enable our warfighters to defend our nation in this new era.
The administration is working with Congress to establish a new branch of the military. It would be called the Space Force by 2020. I like that. Well, the vice president making the big announcement as SpaceX prepared for a historic launch. But it never happened. The company postponing their mission until today after a problem with some rocket sensors. It is launching an Air Force satellite into space. 3 other rocket launches also postponed on Tuesday. Weather pushing back an Ariane mission until today. It will blast off with French spy satellite. And tonight, the ULA's Delta Heavy rocket carrying a recon spacecraft will blast off in California after it was delayed for high winds. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin also delayed its launch due to tech issues, and that is scheduled to take off on Friday. So we'll see if all that happens today and Friday. We'll let you know. Well, the time now is about 11 minutes after the top of the hour. What exactly did President Obama know about Hillary Clinton's deleted emails and when? Fired FBI Director James Comey grilled about that behind closed doors. Attorney Jenna Ellis says that Comey's answers show he takes no responsibility, and she is live up next. And even newborn babies are getting into the holiday spirit. The adorably ugly Christmas sweater party now going viral.
I don't think it posed a national security problem. I think that it was a mistake that she's acknowledged. I can tell you that this is not a situation in which America's national security was endangered.
Well, fired FBI Director James Comey unable to give Congress an answer for how President Obama could make those comments at the time about Hillary Clinton's private email server. So what did President Obama know and when? Here to discuss is constitutional law attorney and former prosecutor Jenna Ellis. Jenna, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Heather. Good to see you.
So let's get right to what James Comey had to say yesterday when questioned by Gowdy. Gowdy says President Obama said of her email arrangement, "I don't think it posed a national security problem." How would he have known that at the time? And then Comey answers, "I can't answer that." Gowdy then says he also said, meaning Obama, that this is not a situation in which America's national security was endangered. How would he have known that at that time? Comey again, same answer. "I can't answer that for him." So what do you make of this exchange?
Well, Gowdy was showing typical flair as a former prosecutor with cross-examination style questions, which proved to just show that either Comey was completely incompetent at his job or he's covering for President Obama, because he says on one hand that he personally nor he didn't direct anyone else at the FBI to actually brief President Obama on the situation. Yet we have that clip that is contemporaneous from President Obama saying that he made that assessment at the time. So which is it? I would agree with Congressman Mark Meadows, who tweeted yesterday that Comey is showing that he's taking no responsibility for the erosion of trust in the FBI and the DOJ as law enforcement. And so, Heather, the bottom line here is that Americans deserve real answers. They don't deserve for James Comey or Loretta Lynch later today to have any sort of evasion on these questions, but to be direct and to tell us, can we trust the legitimacy of the FBI? Can we trust that an investigation from the highest level of government is not going to depend on whether or not you are for Republicans or Democrats, or whether as a political candidate you have a D or R after your name?
In terms of James Comey, and you mentioned Congressman Meadows, he was asked about the funding of the dossier, and his answer, in essence, Comey's answer was, "Who cares?"
Right. Well, first of all, he was trying to then say that it was Republican funded, and then Congressman Meadows actually corrected him. And then Comey said, "Who cares?" And so it actually mirrored what Hillary Clinton has said about the investigation, that, well, does it really matter at this point? So we see that a lot of these talking points are similar to just try to drive the American people away from the fact that this investigation is really critical. Again, we do deserve answers.
Why does it matter now at this point? Because that's the other thing that James Comey, he keeps coming out saying, you know, once again, I'm questioned about the Hillary Clinton emails. Once again, I'm questioned about the server. Why should that matter to American people at this point?
Because that shows what her conduct was as Secretary of State and then as a presidential candidate, what she did and whether or not she committed a crime and whether she is held accountable under the law goes to the very heart of why we as Americans live under a system of rule of law that is fair and equal justice for all. So of course it matters. It would be like saying, well, someone committed a crime 10 years ago. Why does it matter today? It matters for justice. It matters for legitimacy in our system, and it matters whether whether we can trust that the FBI is actually doing its job or whether it's really being political and that there is deep embedded corruption. Who knows how many more Lisa Pages and Peter Strzok's and James Comey's are at the FBI. Americans deserve answers.
Which brings us back, and just a brief comment on what happened with General Flynn yesterday, because a decision on his sentencing delayed. James Comey once again defending the way in which he was questioned by the FBI.
Yeah, and that just shows that there was also bias there for James Comey to bring in Michael Flynn and to question him with just saying, well, he's an expert person and so he should have known that he can ask for a lawyer. And yet having 9 lawyers present with Hillary Clinton, it just shows that he was treating people differently, whether there was a D or an R after their name. We should not tolerate that as the American public. And I'm thankful that Congress is providing some oversight and they're trying to hold the FBI accountable for their actions.
All right. Jenna Ellis joining us this morning with some great insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
All right. The time now is about 20 minutes after the top of the hour. The Fed sounding the alarm on e-cigarettes as a new report reveals the number of teens vaping is soaring. The urgent warning all parents need to hear. And President Trump and First Lady Melania releasing this year's official Christmas card. Looking festive. Carly Shimkus here with the reaction pouring in.
Well, we got to get out of here.
Well, what do you suggest I do?
Flap my arms real hard and head toward the window?
Oh, man. Hollywood mourning the loss of an icon. Actress and director Penny Marshall passing away from complications from diabetes. She was just 75 years old. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7. SiriusXM 115 is here with tributes that just continue to pour in overnight.
Oh, man. Penny Marshall, what a life, what a career.
Laverne Shirley.
Yes, and she was, of course, best known for her role as Laverne DeFazio in the hit comedy Laverne and Shirley. Who didn't like that show? But she also made history behind the scenes as a director. She was the first woman to direct a movie that grossed over $100 million. Now, that movie was Big, starring Tom Hanks, who remembered her on Twitter yesterday saying, "Goodbye, Penny. Man, did we laugh a lot. Wish we still could. Love you." Billy Crystal also honoring her on Twitter with a tweet saying, "Sad to hear of Penny Marshall's passing, a great comedian, a terrific director, and a dear friend." And Danny DeVito also writing this, "Penny Marshall was a sweet woman. I was very fortunate to spend time with her. So many laughs. She had a heart of gold, tough as nails. She could play round ball with the best of them. Always, all love, D." So she was a legend in her own right, both on screen and behind the camera as well, and she's going to be missed by a whole lot of people.
A lot of work, a lot of huge movies behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
So President Trump taking to Twitter after the Senate passed this criminal justice reform bill.
Yeah, that's right. So last night the Senate passed the criminal justice reform bill, sending it to the House, where it is also supposed to be approved pretty quickly. The president has been pushing this bill, so he celebrated the news on Twitter, saying this will keep our communities safer and provide hope and a second chance to those who earn it. In addition to everything else, billions of dollars will be saved. I look forward to signing this into law. A reaction has been pretty positive on this one from both sides of the political aisle. One person on Instagram says a truly bipartisan effort that most everyone considers progress and a win for all. Christopher on Facebook says, "Great job, Mr. President." And then Anthony also on Facebook says, "This is the second bipartisan agreement with Congress. I'm not the only American that hopes to see both sides agree on more legislation." Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, now it has to get through the House.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
But let's talk about this Christmas card. The President Trump and the First Lady releasing the official Christmas portrait.
Yeah, let's expand it right here. So you may not be getting one in the mail, but that's okay because we have it right here. The First Lady and the President's official Christmas card was released. Judging by her outfit, this picture was taken at the Congressional Ball on Saturday. And we also have the Vice President's Christmas card, the vice president and the second lady's Christmas card right there, looking very festive as well. You know you've made it, Heather, when you don't have to send them in the mail, and you could just tweet it out, and then everybody says, all right, we saw it.
And I think there's a way that people can sign the portrait as well via a website, and then I think they're going to officially present them to the First Lady.
That's a keeper. If you get a signed one, that's something to keep for the records, absolutely.
All right, thank you so much, Carly.
Thanks a lot, Heather.
Well, the time now is about 26 minutes after the top of the hour, and Democrats rejecting Republicans' offer to keep the government open in exchange for border wall funding. So what does this say about the Democrats' priorities? This was awesome. These package thieves messed with the wrong guy. The sparkly surprise that has porch pirates retreating. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. An urgent health alert on the dangers of e-cigarettes and their use among teenagers. The nation's top doctor is sounding the alarm after a recent report found more than 3 million teenagers are currently vaping. White House correspondent Kevin Corker has more on the crackdown.
They're not safe, they're not cool, and they can cause long-term problems in terms of learning, attention, memory, and priming the brain towards addiction.
It was a dire warning from the government's top doctor about the increasing popularity of e-cigarettes among American school-aged children, a rise threatening to undermine decades of declines in tobacco use. An estimated 3.6 million U.S. teens now use e-cigarettes. That's 1 in 5 high school students and 1 in 20 middle schoolers. Critics argue the industry has masked the dangers of their products and knowingly marketed to children. E-cigarettes can look like USB flash drives, making them easy to conceal, and they come in a variety of sweet flavors. Juul, which claims more than a 70% share of the e-cigarette market, makes pods that contain about as much nicotine as a pack of 20 regular cigarettes. A spokesperson for the company said in a statement, "Our intent was never to have youth use Juul products. We've taken dramatic action to contribute to solve this problem." Some analysts believe that in its zeal to reduce overall tobacco use, the government is unfairly targeting e-cigarette makers. To curb the troubling trend, the FDA plans to ban the sale of so-called flavored e-cigarettes at gas stations and convenience stores all across the country. At the White House, I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
Some other headlines quickly. Police are combing through very limited body cam video after 2 Chicago officers are killed by an oncoming train. Officers Eduardo Marmoleo and Conrad Gary were on the tracks looking for a shooting suspect when they were killed instantly. Police say that they may have been distracted by another passing train and didn't realize they were in immediate danger. A suspect is in custody and a gun was found near the scene, but police say that person never fired at the officers. Officer Marmoleo has a wife and 3 children. Officer Gary leaves behind a wife and a 6-year-old daughter. Funeral services will be held on Friday and Saturday. Well, chaos erupting on highways in France as protesters torch toll booths. Police arresting at least 17 yellow vest protesters for burning down an entire toll station. Several people have died in car crashes in recent weeks as protesters block major roads. They're demanding higher wages and tax equality. The violence striking France for more than a month, and it's causing officials to consider giving nearly $400 bonuses to thousands of officers. Police unions even calling on officers to start their own protest over working conditions and pay. Well, how about Nikki Haley, the outgoing U.S. ambassador to the UN, taking aim at the Saudi prince? Nikki Haley telling the Washington Examiner, quote, "The prince has to lose the, quote, thuggish nature in which he's been acting." Haley says the prince owes the U.S. accountability for what happened to Saudi columnist Jamal Khashoggi. Khashoggi was murdered inside the Saudi consulate in Turkey in October. The Saudi prince denies involvement. Haley's remarks came the same day of her final address to the United Nations. She is stepping down at the end of the year. Well, federal employees will get Christmas Eve off. The president signed an executive order declaring the federal government will be closed on Monday. Some employees may have to work for national security reasons. Presidents historically grant an extra vacation day when Christmas falls on a Tuesday, so a day off. And it is back to the drawing board for the Senate. Senate Democrats rejecting Republicans' border wall funding deal, forcing renegotiations with less than 3 days until the deadline. So, is this proof that Democrats have become the party of no border security? Here now to weigh in is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Economic Development, Dr. Gavin Clarkson, who lives just 40 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
So what do you think about this? Is this the Democrats becoming the no border security party?
Well, unfortunately, they've always seemed to have been the party of no border security. Many of these Democrats actually voted for the wall in the past. And in fact, they voted for the funding of the very wall that President Trump wants, except when it comes to a time to actually implement border security. They've totally failed, and they want to demagogue this issue, particularly in the instance of this, the tragic instance of the 7-year-old girl who died. But the reason she died is because the Democrats have allowed this incentive to be in place for parents to irresponsibly drag their children across a dangerous journey across the desert. If we had the wall, that incentive to try and defraud our asylum system would be gone, and we wouldn't have children dying.
As we look at these images, I want to bring this up, the tweet that the president sent out yesterday on the border wall. He said the Democrats are saying loud and clear that they do not want to build a concrete wall, but we are not building a concrete wall. We're building artistically designed steel slats so that you can easily see through it. It will be beautiful and at the same time give our country the security that our citizens deserve. It will go up fast. It will save us billions of dollars a month once it's completed. What do you make of that tweet that he sent out last night?
Well, it's absolutely true. And what most people don't realize is that building the wall is actually economic development for rural places like southern New Mexico, because not only are you going to get the construction jobs in the beginning to actually build the structures, but in order for the wall to be effective, you have to have the electronic monitoring. And that's going to require bringing high-speed broadband all the way down to the border. And much of the rural areas, particularly in southern New Mexico, are at 20th century dial-up speeds. And the only way you can participate in a 21st century economy is with the broadband that you would need to support all the electronic monitoring. So the president's wall is needed. It is something that will actually create jobs in New Mexico, and our portion of the wall will pay for itself with that increased economic development.
You know, Republicans, though, a lot of them, if you look at the response online, social media response, they're pretty mad. They think, you know, the president's folding on this, that he's not keeping his promise to build the wall and have Mexico pay for it. And then at the same time last night, we have this news that came out that the U.S. is pledging more than $10 billion to develop Central America and southern Mexico. So we have the money for that, but we don't have the money for funding the border wall. Nothing seems to be getting done on the wall.
Well, the Democrats would rather have an issue than solve the problem. And it's long time past that we need to have good policy rather than partisan politics. They would rather demagogue the tragic death of a 7-year-old girl rather than fix the problem. We need to stop having this incentive for migrants to make this dangerous journey, show up, and then commit fraud the moment they show up on the border. And it is truly tragic that this young girl died, but the responsibility for that lies with her father, who made the mistake of dragging his daughter across the desert, and it lies with the Democrats, who consistently refuse to secure the border.
Yeah, the bottom line, though, is that a 7-year-old little girl lost her life, and we're still haggling over this border wall to build it or not, funding, where the funding is going to come from. Just to go back to this $10 billion being pledged to Central America and southern Mexico, the reasoning behind that is that it will provide incentives for these migrants to not make this journey to begin with. Do you believe that that will work?
Well, obviously, if you improve the economies around the world, as an indigenous person, I'm a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, I certainly understand the challenge of poverty, particularly among communities that are predominantly Mayan communities in Guatemala. But at the same point, unemployment in New Mexico on our reservations is 56%. So I am far more interested in promoting economic development among our own indigenous populations before I necessarily focus on folks overseas.
Yeah, those were good points that you brought up in terms of, the economy and the economic incentives that it will bring to the area to build the wall alone. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. Knows firsthand what he's talking about. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and neighbors on edge as random explosions continue to rock one community. The brand new lead police are now following. And looking to boost your credit score, how smartphones could soon help millions of Americans with their finances. Welcome back. An Arizona man sent to prison for threatening to kill President Trump. Gerard Schmidt getting more than 3 years behind bars after leaving threatening voicemails to prosecutors in Nebraska. Schmidt also claimed that he wanted to kill 3 Nebraska state officials. The threats were made after his conviction on a prior felony charge there. He was found guilty in September. Well, another Arizona man sentenced to 12 years behind bars for helping a New York college student join ISIS. Ahmed Mohammed El Gamal told the judge that he's a proud American and asked for forgiveness. He helped Sami El-Gourani get to Syria back in 2015, where he later died fighting for ISIS. Prosecutors say the two communicated extensively online. Well, how about some business news for you? Paying your cell phone bill may soon help strengthen your buying power. Tracy Kraska from our sister network, Fox Business, here with some more on the changes coming to your credit score. Good morning.
Good morning, Heather. Yes, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Experian is going to start factoring in your smartphone, cell phone payment, also some other utility payments into your credit score. So if you do not have a long borrowing history, this could be something that could really help you out. Maybe you've never taken out a loan or opened up a credit card in your own name. Experian says that about 1.5 million people could soon have a credit score now because of this change. Consumers will be able to opt into this program. So starting early next year, you're going to be able to take advantage of this change if you'd like to.
You can opt into it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Something else I think I would like to opt into.
Me too.
These Krispy Kreme donuts that time of year again.
Yes. Gingerbread glazed donuts making their return to Krispy Kreme starting today through next Monday, Christmas Eve. So these are described as a spiced gingerbread version of Krispy Kreme's original glazed donuts with a warm gingerbread molasses glaze. Sounds delicious.
We need Krispy Kremes on set. Why don't we have an example of those?
I'm sorry. I dropped the ball here.
Test.
I'll work on that.
All right, there's time.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Well, the time now is about 15 minutes until the top of the hour. And look at this. A pair of heroes run straight into a raging inferno to save a trapped man.
Can you pull him out? I need help.
Come here.
Wow. Would you be able to do that? The insane rescue, all caught on camera. And Christmas is now less than a week away. Is all your shopping done? Nope. And we've got some stocking stuffers that can help all of us up next. All right, this may come as a shock to you, but Christmas is less than a week away. And with such little time to do so much, if you have a lot left to do, it can be a struggle to find gifts for your family's stockings. But do not worry, we've got you covered with some top stuffers this holiday season. Joining me now is lifestyle expert Limor Suss. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
All right, let's get
a week
straight
away,
to
TikTok.
I know, TikTok. And we've got a lot to get through here. Some great ideas for people for the last minute.
Yes, so collectible Hot Wheels. I have 2 little boys, and so we basically necessarily have every Hot Wheels that they have now. So collectible ones are something that would be really great to give. And so these are from eBay, and they're brand new. What's great about it is they actually have a full selection on their site for less than $10 stocking stuffers for everyone on your list. Most of the items ship for free. And since we're on crunch time, they actually have guaranteed delivery for less on the site that ships in 3 days or less.
Okay.
So you can definitely check those out. And it's something
eBay's great for unusual gifts.
Yes, it's unusual gifts. They also have brand new items, but it's really great for finding those things that you can't necessarily go into the supermarket or whatever and purchase.
Yeah. Okay. So up next. Always a favorite.
Sockets. Yes. So everyone knows Dr. Seuss, and obviously his beloved book and the holiday classic movie, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But now these are official Dr. Seuss pop socket grip and stand for phones and tablets. These are the hottest phone accessories.
Okay.
So basically, what it is attaches to the back of your phone. It has a collapsible grip, so it's for easier texting. Calling, and of course selfies.
So you don't drop your phone.
Exactly. So when you have the extra large phones, $16.99, you can get it on Amazon.
How much?
$16.
Oh, 16. I thought you said 60.
No, everything here is less than $30.
60. Okay, and the Grinch Band-Aid.
Yeah, so these are the Grinch bandages. They're the latest decorative bandage from Band-Aid brand, and the designs are festive and fun for the holidays, and they make it an easy stocking stuffer for the little one. My little guy is obsessed with Band-Aid bandages.
Oh, cute. Okay, so it makes a little boo-boo not that bad.
Exactly. Right. Okay, so now this is both a treat and a toy in one. So these are Kinder Joy. So Kinder Joy eggs. Right now they have the limited edition Disney Princess. They also have Star Wars eggs with a new selection of toys. And of course they have the classic white as well.
Now how do these work? There's something inside of them?
Yeah, so on one half of it is a treat. On the other half is a toy. Yeah, of course.
Is it something going to pop out?
No, so you can see. So like one half is a treat, one half is a toy.
Oh, okay.
And it's so cute. And like this is a Star Wars. It has a little C-3PO. Like, isn't that cute?
Got it. All right.
So really fun, really, and just really delicious too.
So for the grown-ups.
So these are actually for little kids. Look how cute these are. These are personalized.
Oh, how cute.
Obviously holiday aprons and mitts. These are from Minted.com, which is an indie marketplace that have like beautiful curated stuff. So then you can always get like really, but it is crunch time. So today or tomorrow, if you want something personalized, you want to definitely order that.
So you can help mom and dad.
Yeah,
in the
help
kitchen.
mom and dad in the kitchen. These are obviously holiday ones. The stockings are from there as well.
And
so
up
now
next,
we have a fun take on coal in your stocking. So this is a charcoal Google Mini. So obviously you can do hands-free assistant from Google Mini. Basically you can say, Google, set up an alarm for me or whatever it might be. $29, you can get it at the Home Depot.
So some coal that you might want to get.
Exactly,
in your
coal you actually want to get.
Yeah, that's good. And then finally, right here, this is fragrances.
So I'm obsessed with perfume, but it gets really expensive because I can't always decide what perfume I want. So enter Scentbird. So Scentbird basically is $14.95 a month. Basically what you do is you choose a perfume from 450 designer or niche perfume designers, and you get a 30-day supply in this like sleek